It is 6 p.m. in Dar es Salaam, and it is 11 a.m. in the DMV. So tell me, you guys, we're not showing off on this side, this tropical weather on this side, but I would like to know, is it cold over there? What's happening in Baltimore? Tell us. Can somebody let us in?
That's going to be Lynn because I'm in Bowie, about 45 minutes south of Baltimore.
So
Okay, what's the weather doing over there?
It's beautiful in Bowie.
yeah, it's nice. It's nice and sunny here. It's supposed to get up to like 80 degrees sometime today.
Hmm.
Okay. Nice. That sounds good. Okay, sounds like some good April weather. Well, welcome, guys. I am so happy to see everyone. Thank you for making this happen. Thank you for your patience. We are going to do our best to make this the softest, easiest conversation and manage all the technical things at the same time. My name is Amber Davis. Many of you know me already, working with Lynn and Kim a couple years ago with Baltimore Green Justice. And I'm back this round in a different role and still very much excited to connect with all of you. So one of the things I just want to walk through some quick housekeeping is keep the meeting ID and the PIN number close by. It's going to be difficult for us to communicate with you as we're going through the presentation. Lynn and I will be doing some technical stuff. So if you have any issues, you can contact one of us during the meeting. But for the meantime, just keep it close by just in case Zoom, does what Zoom does and knock you off. You have the information close by. Secondly, is feel free to use the chat. If everyone wants to start out with just typing their names and contact information in the chat now. So if anyone wants to connect with you, the information is already there. Okay. Next is if we have any questions, concerns, or need to, intercept in conversation, just use the raise hand button or just put the little church finger up.
Right.
I know somewhere in some of our cultures, we know this finger.
Hmm.
Just put the little church finger up. I heard a So, and then finally is being here in this beautiful, wonderful Dar es Salaam. Sometimes we may have internet issues or the power outage. So if you see my screen go completely blank or I disappear, just be patient. I'll be right back and keep the conversation going. So let's dive right into it because our lovely Catherine Mangella she's only here for the first half and she's so important. Very much important part of this conversation. So I want to dive in for the sake of everyone's time. All right, bear with me in managing all the things. Let's start out first, please, with, we're going to start out with me sharing my screen properly. How about that? All right. So as we get started, if we can, please, we will introduce everyone. I think the best thing to do is to do that first. Okay, to do that first. Let's do that first. So we see who's here. Give me a second, y'all. Okay, share. Now, keep in mind that when I share my screen, I cannot see you. So if you're holding up your finger, you need my attention, you might have to actually say something. All right. Before I jump in and get started, any questions? Everybody good? Everybody got their tea, their coffee, their water? Everything good? All right, let's get started. Okay. Here we go. Share. Yay. Okay, can you guys see this slideshow here?
Yes.
Can everyone see my sharing? Thank
Yes.
you so much. Wonderful. Okay. All right, so let's get started. Jump right in. Baltimore Green Justice Workers Cooperative. We are here between Baltimore, Maryland, and Dar es Salaam in Tanzania in East Africa on this Thursday, April 24th, and we are making history. Why is this historical? Why is this so important? What is this all about, right? Personally, I think this is definitely history in the making because we have two different continents, one family, many different similarities with the cities that we're in as far as development, environmental justice, climate literacy, raising awareness, and coming together in community. The conversations you're having over there I'm finding the same conversations here. So this is I'm going to use some keywords that one of our panelists had used in a message to me earlier today, Malik. I don't know if he's here yet. He was using terms like trailblazing, frontliners, change makers. And so I just thought that in the space of, environmental justice and green working and bringing up solutions here in Dar es Salaam, that those words were very powerful. And so connecting with Baltimore and what's happening in Baltimore is going to be very significant moving forward in our next conversation, which is next month. So save the date for May 22nd, and I'll share more about that coming up soon. Okay, let's start with Miss Kimberly Armstrong. Now, I'm not going to sit here and read everything because y'all didn't come on here for that. I really want to hear from you as well. So, Miss Kim, I'm just going to tell us a little bit about you, but if you could take it over from there, take a few minutes. I'll start it out. Miss Armstrong, Chief Advisor for Urban Clean Energy Advisors, LLC, and co-founder of Baltimore Green Justice Workers Cooperative. Having several years of experience as a sustainability advisor, author, and community advocate, Kim has been recognized nationally for her work on social justice and equality issues. Miss Kim, welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Tell us a few words about yourself, about your occupation, why green work, and who you are and why you're here.
That's a mouthful right there. So I got into renewable energy really from going back to college, getting my degree in construction and business management. And I started to learn about green buildings and things of that nature. And I started to connect the dots to public health. So I look at things from a public health aspect. So the more I learned, the more I wanted to learn. And being co-founder of this organization with Lynn, Baltimore Green Justice Workers Cooperative, we were looking at how could we better position ourselves, especially because we are here in Baltimore. How could we position ourselves to include community and educate the community on these different types of careers that are in the green industry that a lot of times people don't really know about or hear about? And so we just find it very inspiring to connect to Tanzania. Amber, thank you for that. And how, because like you said, we are all living kind of like in the similar space, but even though we're on two different continents, we are still facing some of the same issues and problems when it comes around to green infrastructure and public health and things of that nature. So that's why I'm here.
Absolutely. All in the name of development. As the cities get developed more, the risk for so many other adversities are on the rise, and climate is definitely one of them, and how we treating the environment in our development processes. So we're going to dive into that as well. And you raised a great question. If you don't mind, Ms. Kim, if you remember verbatim, can you type that in the chat? We would like to capture that throughout the conversation. Next coming up is yours truly, Miss Lynn. Welcome. You guys, keep me straight. Am I still sharing my tab? Can you still see?
Yes, we can still see.
Okay. So let's get to the right thing here. Okay, Lynn Pender, Baltimore-based educator. Carrie Boo, welcome. Author and lifelong learner whose commitment to environmental justice and adult literacy has been the cornerstone of her personal and professional work for more than 3 decades. Early on, Lynn was deeply influenced by a close circle of friends who worked at the national environmental organizations. And am I right? Was Ms. Kim one of those friends?
Not back then. She came a little later on.
Okay, she came a little bit later on. I know you guys became inseparable at one point, but your innovative work on environmental policy and your grassroots advocacy served as a catalyst for her passion to create meaningful local change in Baltimore. And if I know Lynn, I know that she is truly a change agent. I have worked with Lynn in many capacities before Baltimore Green Justice in community work and always advocating for those who needed voice. And so, Lynn, we thank you. We welcome you. And if you don't mind, tell us, as the director of the Baltimore Green Jobs Academy, Lynn, why this work?
Well, First off, thanks, Amber. Appreciate all that you bring to the BGJWC family and looking forward to continuing the work and making the connections and building the bridges between communities and residents in Dar es Salaam and here in the DMV area with a special focus on Baltimore, Maryland. But you know, this work is very important. This particular conversation about green career professionals is very important. It gives the opportunity for us to be able to make connections in a different way for people in our community who may not necessarily know um, who may not necessarily know that this is an option for them in terms of career, in terms of lifestyle, in terms of activism, in terms of advocacy, in terms of employment, in terms of entrepreneurship. And so it just seems like in the time, in the moment that we're in right now, that this was the best time for us to be able to launch BGJWC with this focus of trying to create more opportunities for people who look like us, who come from our neighborhoods or similar environments, to be able to tap into something new, something different.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And something different and new it is. Absolutely. I don't know of any other cities connecting in this space anywhere else with anywhere else in Tanzania looking to do some great works. So thank you so much. And let's keep it moving.
Hey, Amber.
Family.
Amber, I have to say
Yes.
this. One of my influences over the years was and still is Dr. Mildred McLean out of Savannah, Georgia, with Harambe House, Citizens for Environmental Justice. And when I first launched the youth organization back in my early 20s, I had an opportunity to travel with her to Senegal. And they had an initiative called Building Bridges. And so that influence on me in my early 20s stayed with me even now in my early 50s and wanting to build off of that concept. And that's what brought us to this. So I
That's
definitely wanted to give a shout out to Dr. Mildred McLean.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We give honor. And you know, the interesting thing is, I think it was like a year or two ago, guys, when I was the interim director here. And I was literally trying to we were trying to look at all the different initiatives. And I said, we keep working with this bridge concept, this bridge. Let me dive into the bridge, right? So, any engineers or architects here, maybe you guys can help make it a little bit more palatable because I had a hard time understanding until I had to go on YouTube and become like a child and watch a video on how bridges are built. So I'm just going to leave it there. If you really want to get the depths of what is needed collaboratively, transcontinentally, go watch a video on how to build a bridge because you will find that building the foundation is work by itself. Building all of the support parts, the beams, finding the laborers that are skilled in that particular unique area. There's so much to contend with, so much challenge that building a physical bridge, if you were to bridge it over a wide expanse of water, it's a lot of work. And so if you take a look at that, even for parents, if you use that as an object lesson for your children, you will see that building bridges are not easy. So thank you for being here, everybody. I mean that. All right. Thank you, Lynn, for saying that. And let's jump right in. Okay, so I'm supposed to be introduced by Lynn. So Lynn, you gotta introduce. I'm Avis.
So really excited to have Amber on board. Amber started with us probably around the same time that we launched BGJWC, our first Kwanzaa initiative that we did in December of 2022. And at that time linked us with some folks over in Dar es Salaam, and that just began the work, and just really excited. Amber is a visionary. She is a talented mom. She's a talented graphic artist. She's a talented
Yeah.
thinker. She's a doer. And she's an entrepreneur. She's a professional masseuse. She has her own company. Health and wellness, is her expertise, and we're just honored to call her a team member for BGJWC. And so we're looking forward to being able to develop deeper connections and even beyond the projects that we have planned in terms of cultural exchange, but also really looking at how climate change is impacting us globally and being able to connect people across the globe to share solutions and to learn from each other.
I
So thank
appreciate
you,
you, Lynn.
Amber.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's keep moving right on along. We want to say a special Asante Sana. Thank you. If everyone could just please join me at the count of 3 to say Asante Sana. I want to hear everybody Swahili. 1, 2, 3.
Asante Sana.
Thank you. A special thank you to community engagement, environmental justice, and health. Because of the M.A.T.C.H grant, we are able to make this conversation possible. We're able to make this connection possible, and we're able to make planning and organizing and scheduling next month's conversation possible and beyond. So thank you so much for this effort. A big part of the building, right? The resources. So with that said, I would like to introduce Dr. Sakobi Wilson, professor and director of the EJ Lab at the University of Maryland in College Park, also directing the Center for Engagement, Environmental Justice, and Health Empowering Communities, a nonprofit organization. Dr. Sakobi, welcome. Thank you for being here. Please tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words. And I am very curious if you can enlighten us on this very special, unique word, empowering.
Oh, yeah, cool. Happy to be here today. So I am an environmental health scientist currently at the University of Maryland School of Public Health in the Department of Global Environmental Occupational Health. So it's apropos that we're having this conversation across borders, right, across the ocean. I've been doing environmental justice work since I was an undergrad student at Alabama Agricultural Mechanical University. So that's also part of the thing about the diaspora. We're here today, historically Black colleges, right? I think EJ work, climate justice work, very important. If you're going to try to really address these issues, you got to really give people tools and help build capacity, technical assistance. And that's where that word empowerment comes from. Empowerment is about helping people connect to the power they already have. Now, you can't give people power. You can shift power, grow power, build power, right? But giving people power, that's some, environmental missionaryism stuff. That's not what environmental justice is about. If any of you are familiar with the 17 principles of environmental justice, principle 5 is self-determination. People speak with their own voice, right? So you think about communities, populations in the African diaspora, we've been all about self-determination, right? I mean, so regardless of if you're talking about environmental justice, you're talking about food justice, water justice, reproductive justice, it's about the people. So this work is other people, for the people, by the people. It's been driven by the people. So for me, it's very important to make sure in this moment and as we move forward, we are working together, again, throughout the diaspora, because folks of color, Black folks in particular, have been under attack, are constantly under attack, and under direct attack right now in the U.S. and globally, right? So the movement for Black lives across the world is important. We have to be fighting together, working together, doing intersectional work together. So I'm very excited to be here. I'm glad our grant was able to get to y'all. Let me just say this real quickly. We got to also have our own stuff. Arjun Lord says the master's tools. We got to have our own institutions. We got to have our own centers. We got to have our own programs. We got to have our own organizations. We got to have our own business. Sankofa, get back to basics, y'all. Get back to our own stuff. I'll pass the mic.
I appreciate that. Asante Sana, thank you so much. Makes all the sense in the world. that word empowerment. Now I know how to use it. Thank you so much. I want to say to us here on the call, for those of you who are here and your videos are not on, I know we are all busy. I know that we have so much stuff to do, but guys, it starts with us being relational. So if we could just take a few minutes to be seen and see each other. If you have to leave again, I understand, but we would love to at least see you first. Okay. So come on in the room. Let's keep going. Thank you, Dr. Sakobi. That was powerful. Can't wait to hear from you again. Welcome to the room, Nana Abena James, Auntie, affectionately known as Auntie here in Dar es Salaam. Ms. Grace A. James is the CEO and Managing Director of Merita Technologies.
Hello.
A software development company specializing in enterprise level applications. She manages resources, product development, and client engagements. Also, serving as the chairperson for the 6th Region African Diaspora Alliance in Tanzania. Welcome, 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 Nana Abena James. Tell us why this work and what brought you here tonight.
Yeah. I'm not hearing you.
Uh-oh. Can you
Can
hear
you guys
me?
hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. We can hear you just fine. Not sure why you're not hearing us. Okay, she's working it out. Can you hear us? You can't hear. Okay, we will circle back.
It's interesting.
We'll come back.
She couldn't hear us, but we could hear her fine. So
yeah, we can hear you fine. She just can't hear me saying that. We can hear you fine. Can somebody type for me, please? Or let her know to introduce herself. Okay, I think she's gone. She's gonna come back, y'all. Let's keep going. We'll come back, Nana. Nana, we be back. We be back to get you. All right. Okay, and welcome tonight. I want to say welcome to Laurel Kivuyu. Unfortunately, Laurel is feeling ill this week and has not been able to make it tonight. I do believe that one of her colleagues from Climate Hub is here. If you are here, please make yourself known, turn your video on, say hey in the chat, and we would love to hear from you. In the meantime, Laurel is an environmental health scientist hailing from the Maasai community in northern Tanzania. Grew up deeply connected to the natural world as her community's way of life is closely tied to the environment. This early connection inspired her journey into climate activism and eventually led her to found Climate Hub Tanzania in 2021. So we are sorry to hear that she's not feeling well, but we welcome you still in spirit. And if her colleague here? No, not yet. Okay. We're going to keep moving. We're going to keep it moving. But we welcome Laurel. We hope to see her in the next conversation. All right. Karibu sana. Kakaloiban Masingisa Kotete. I hope that I did your name justice. Loiban, welcome, welcome, welcome. He is a seasoned monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning associate at Asante Africa Foundation in Tanzania, known as MEAL. With over 6 years of experience across education, health, and livelihood empowerment initiatives, he specialized in designing and implementing meal systems that deliver measurable results. Thank you so much, Loiban, for being here. We appreciate you and all that you've contributed to and all the programs aiming to impact over 100,000 young people by 2025. Welcome, Loiban. Do you have a few words to say? Greet us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be in this platform. Seeing you people from USA and Tanzania, I'm honored. So I am Loibon Masingsa, just as Amber introduced me, and I'm from a Maasai community here based in Arusha, Tanzania. And I have just a small story to share around the climate. It's becoming for Maasai, it's a community where we have a little exposure around education. So cutting trees or distracting environment is not a big issue for us as long as we are earning something. Because having a little exposure to education means also we have a hard life in terms of financial. So we can do anything to earn. So regardless of it can help us to earn, we can do that. So we saw that is a challenge, and working with Santa Africa, it has been one of the objectives that we are trying to educate the communities we are working. We are working with the Maasai community. We are working with another community in Lushoto, Samba community, and these communities has been like it needs education. It needs us to wake up and enlighten them about education because we believe education is a powerful tool. So the
Of
strategies,
course.
yes. So the strategies we have been using to help spread the word of preserving the environment is through initiating clubs in schools, and we have nearly 67 clubs in schools across the three regions of Arusha, Tanga, and Kilimanjaro, and we have been teaching. We have a syllabus which we weekly have young people in a room, and for 60 to like 40 to 60 minutes they are in
Hmm.
the room and they have to learn on the importance of environment. And in that case,
That's
for our
awesome.
Maasai, yes, for our
Hmm.
Maasai community, now they know that if I want to cut a tree, I have to plant another tree. And it helped us for last year, we were able to plant 1,000 trees in Maasai community, Monduli, and it's an encouragement because our community now know that even if you are not there, it's a discipline to them that I have to preserve environment. And if I need to cut the tree, I need to make charcoals. I need to know also how to plant the trees because you let them know the consequences of what we are experiencing now. Little water, our our cows are dying, our goats are dying. This is because we are
Hmm.
cutting trees. This is because we are distracting the environment. And the
Yeah.
result is we are limited the rain. Thank you so much, Amber, for that.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing the details. It's important to know sometimes upfront. So, as we coming into this space as strangers and cultural differences and language barriers and things like that, as much information as we can exchange is very helpful. So, I appreciate that, Loibin. You are most welcome. All right, moving on here tonight or this morning for you guys, I should say. Monica Cooper, are you here, Monica? Did I see Monica? Monica Cooper, you are welcome. Passionate advocate for justice, founder of the Maryland Justice Project, and a distinguished member of the Maryland Democratic State Central Committee for Baltimore's 40th Legislative District, where she achieved a significant victory in her recent reelection. We would say here in Tanzania, we would say to you, Monica, Hongera sana. Hongera sana. That means congratulations. Notably, Monica is the visionary behind Soul Energy, a pioneering startup focusing on innovative solar and renewable energy solutions, underscoring her commitment to sustainable development and environmental advocacy. Monica, we welcome you. If you are in the room, please say hello and tell us what brought you here tonight. Has anybody seen Monica? I don't know if
Yeah,
she's here
I
yet.
don't think Monica is here.
She's here. Where's
I don't
Monica?
I don't see her.
Oh, okay. Lynn, if you can, I don't know if she got the login information. If you can send it to her, I'm not sure why she's not here. But Monica, we love you, honey. We love you. We love you. All right, keep it moving. Lenin Kasoba, Caribou Sana. Lenin, a dedicated director and co-founder of the Tanzanian Youth Coalition, TYC, has devoted nearly 2 decades to TYC's noble mission. Over the years, Lennon has spearheaded a range of transformative projects, leaving an indelible mark on Tanzania's youth empowerment landscape. Parallel to his impactful work with TYC, Lennon is pursuing studies in business management, reflecting his commitment to personal growth and professional development. Thank you so much for your service and for your hard work, Lennon. I see what you are doing here in Tanzania, and we would like to say thank you, Asante Sana. Please join us in the conversation and tell us what brought you here tonight. He's not here either. Where are my people at? All right, we're going to move forward. Not sure what's going on, but we've got some amazing people here. I was hoping you guys can meet them all. In the meantime, we've got Mr. Key. I know you in the house. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here, but I was on mute for a moment.
Okay, no problem. All right, why don't you jump on in, Mr. Key, as the Director of the Education Data at the U.S. Green Building Council. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and what brought you here tonight?
Yes. So I have a couple of hats. So one, I'm a data analyst. Also, I'm a program director, and the programs that I'm directing involve our faculty and we have USGBC faculty, which are not like typical university faculty, but people who are who know a little bit more than the average person um, about green building. And then we have education partners who provide courses for our online platform, which is used primarily by lead credential holders who want to maintain credentials and know more about the green building space that LEED inhabits. So this additional role that I now have, which includes workforce development, is somewhat new for USGBC. So I'm here to listen more than speak, but my goal is to think about the ways that lead as a system of building practices can be directed more towards underserved communities. As LEED currently stands, it's typically used for commercial development. And so all of the practices that involve indoor air quality, water quality, energy conservation, materials and resources, all these concepts are involved in LEED, but are typically applied more to commercial development. What we want to make sure of is that the benefits that can come from LEED, which could mean reduced exposure to health risks or environmental risks or mediation um, of landscape and improvement of health, all those kinds of benefits that are supposed to come from green building.
Mhm.
My goal is to figure out how we can direct that one towards workforce development and also towards the improvement of the spaces in which our people live. So that's iterative. It's a process. It hasn't been charted yet, but it's these kinds of conversations that, like the ones that we're about to have here, where ideas can be exchanged, and I can bring those back, potentially have them implemented by my colleagues. Uh, or to think about things that haven't been done yet, and think about how we can make those happen.
Awesome. And to think about things that we have that haven't been done yet. I love that.
Mhm.
That's what we're doing here. I love it. Thank you so much. I can't wait to dive and peel that back some later on. All right, let's jump in here and introduce Catherine. I think Catherine may have had to leave. But Catherine, if you're here, say hi real quick. Catherine Mongella is a visionary in the nonprofit sector with over 15 years of experience in organizational development, capacity building, and solution-focused approaches. Catherine is a certified director by the Institute of Directors in Tanzania and an author published by Langa Publishers and Relum Media. So thank you again, Catherine, for your service as well. We had the opportunity to meet and connect with Catherine a couple years ago. And if I recall, she's currently the executive director of Our Climate, Lynn, can you remind me, is that in DC or in Dar es Salaam? I know, or in Tanzania. I know Catherine goes back and forth between both places. She's in the DMV a lot.
I believe
Lynn?
they have. I
Okay.
believe I believe they have an office in the U.S. and in Dar es Salaam.
Okay. So Catherine is family, y'all, on both sides. If you see her in any of our future meetings or in emails, just shout her out. I'm sure she would love to connect. But tonight she had to head out a little early. So let's keep moving forward. And we have to remember the time zone difference on this side. Nadia Hutchinson, Karibu Sana. Nadia serves as program director at Sustain Our Future Foundation, and she is one of the co-founders of the Be More Just Transition Network, a network of community organizers and nonprofits dedicated to climate, environmental, and racial justice in Baltimore City. Wow, powerhouse. Nadia Hutchinson, welcome to the conversation. Please tell us about yourself and what brought you here tonight.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to be in conversation and community today. Um, a lot of things brought me to this conversation. I've had a lot of conversations with Lynn going back to a few years ago when there was air quality issues. I mean, there's continuously air quality issues in Baltimore City, but specifically around the wildfires and how when we think about community events, how can we really make sure that we're protecting our community members from poor air quality? But what really brought me to today's conversation was just my interest in the Pan-African nature of this issue. So I actually used to work in healthcare, and I got connected to environmental issues through being a healthcare worker in Uganda and then in South Africa. So when I was in South Africa, a lot of the patients that I was working with couldn't um, work at this local oil refinery that was supposed to be bringing all these jobs into the community, the refinery said. Um, but everyone was so sick from the refinery that they could not work at the refinery. And so I had all these patients who couldn't access medications because of cost. They couldn't access food to take their medications because of cost. And it really opened my eyes to environmental injustice and to the need for a green economy and for the need for a just transition. And so I left working in healthcare to work on green issues. And so I'm excited to be a part of this conversation. And yeah, just looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well done. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you for sharing that. I totally get it. How one area can lead you into this space. Me working in the health and wellness space, coming here to do that, and in that, exploring and researching and finding out how much communicable diseases are a big factor, how much health, lack of education in health practices and, hygiene in as far as in clinical spaces as well, and how it connects to environmental woes. So, lack of water, what happens when the water is gone for 2 or 3 days, what happens when we lose power, what happens when during rainy season and it's flooding out here, and we have more mosquitoes than usual, more insects than usual, what happens to the food supply, what happened, just the layers of things that honestly, coming from the States, I never thought about before, never had to think about, right? So coming here and focusing in the health space and then getting eyes open into what's happening environmentally and the injustice in those spaces too. Has been very interested, but as a foreigner, I will not speak about the injustices in another country until I come back home where I'm safe. All right, let's keep it moving. Another conversation. That's a other conversation. That's a whole different conversation for another time. All right, let's keep it moving here. Who else do we have in the room? Thank you, Nadia. Malik is a sustainability strategist and the co founder of CEEJH. So you'll have to let us know what that stands for. A climate tech startup helping industries and communities track, verify, and report their environmental impact. That is awesome, Malik. If you don't mind, jump in, introduce yourself, give us a brief synopsis of this tech space in green jobs, because most people think that green jobs are people who are picking up trash and planting trees, but it's so diverse. That I would love for you to just take a moment, please, and just tell us about the intersection of technology and green space. And tell us about CEEJH.
Yeah. Audible? Hello?
Peace and blessings.
Okay, we can hear you.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Awesome. Great. The network over here is not very good. Thank you for the introduction. Very excited to be here. Hi, everyone. So there maybe a little introduction of what CEEJH is. CEEJH is a startup, tech project based. Name came from two words, two Swahili words, CEEJH, which is Chata stands for a mark, and Apisha is clean. So it came about, kind of like merging these two missions of leaving a mark and in spaces, make city spaces. This was like the mission we had. We were fighting issues. So my name is Malike Walter Musika. You can call me Malik. And I'm one of the co-founders of CEEJH. We back in 2022 and two other of my colleagues. And so what we do at CEEJH is we are working on bridging the gap between environmental data and real world impact, right? So leveraging digital tools, using and using tech to enhance, to help the cities, to help the communities, specifically marginalized communities, to be able to track, to verify their impact. The situation that we found during the time, when we were kind of researching, is that, of course, plastic waste is such a pressing issue, not only in Tanzania but also in Africa, right? And the thing, what that we were seeing is that we have all this great impact doing, this great climate, but like, where does all that data go? It was a very formal sector. You have these guys doing great, would write stuff, books, or maybe not even report any of that. You had a situation where value was leaking away from the supply, from the value. They were getting compensated for, they are getting compensated for selling the plastic, which already had, then not being compensated for climate action, also reducing.
Hey, Malik, I'm sorry. We are trying our best. I am. But you are choppy, and I feel like you are saying some good stuff. Do y'all get the feeling like he is just giving us some good nuggets? And I'm like, I want to hear. Is it possible you can relocate somewhere, reposition yourself? Because I really want them to hear. I want to capture what you're saying right now. If you can work on that in the meantime, time.
Let me try switching off my video. Maybe it's my video. Yeah, the network of am I better right now, or
I feel like you're better. Does he sound better, guys?
Yes.
Keep talking.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. So
take about another minute. Take about another minute and try to recap and fill us in.
Right. Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Malik Chatakish. I'm one of the founders of CEEJH, which is a climate tech project based in Dar. And what Isha, our mission is to bridge the gap between environmental data and the actual real world impact. So the situation that we saw at present currently is that you have great I say environmental activists, such as the waste pickers, but these guys are actually our unsung heroes because they're out great work, but this data is nowhere to be found. This data kind of leaks out from the value chain, and hence a lot of value is being left on the table for these guys who are doing this great environmental impact. So we came in because we believe climate action starts with being able to see and measure what is happening on the ground. So our solution was to track the waste, to track the emissions, and all the circular economy practices, and these um, formalize these different spaces, these different ecosystems through data. And that is how CEEJH started back in 2022. So I'm especially drawn to this conversation or conversations like this because environmental justice is deeply personal to me. I've seen firsthand how these communities are who are doing the least harm to the planet, but face harshest consequences from pollution, from exclusion, from decision making. So we start with formalizing, and it starts with these are the same communities that are doing all the work. That's why I'm here. I'm here to listen, share, to connect the dots between thoughts and local realities. I also believe collaboration, these international collaboration, is a beautiful opportunity to exchange strategies, but also to have some sort of solidarity. So great to be here. Looking forward to sharing and building with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Glad we got to hear you. It was more than worth it. And tupo pamoja, as you say here in Swahili, which means that we are together. Is that correct? We are in this together. Did I get that right, my Tanzanian family? Tupo pamoja?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Someone else I'd like to invite to introduce you to, who is also not here this evening, but she will be here again next month's conversation. As Malik just mentioned, solutions. We're going to dive into those issues and solutions next month. Tonight, we're just looking at green jobs. We're looking at the different roles, the spaces people hold across the two continents and these two major cities. Joy is a sweetheart. She is a young lady who is heading to Spelman. Guys, she is going to Spelman this September, currently enrolled at the University of Dar es Salaam. Joy is continuing her academic journey at Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, where she will pursue a major in environmental science. She is excited to bring a global perspective to her studies, combining her experiences in East Africa with her growing leadership and passion for environmental justice in the United States, and I believe and beyond. Next month, she will be one of many residents participating in solution exchange ideas between both cities and their adverse effects of climate change. So please help us welcome Joy next month. And for all my prayer warriors, keep her in good prayer for her college admission, for her college life starting in September. We want to keep these young people encouraged at all cost and create the communities that they need to be cultivated in as well in this space. All right, let's keep moving. Is everybody doing okay? We doing all right? I know sometimes Zooms can be boring. This is the part where we got to go through all this stuff, the technical stuff. So I'm just checking in. Is everybody good? We good?
Yep.
Yeah, we good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I love to hear from you guys. Remember, I can't see you because I'm sharing my screen. So I feel like I'm talking to my computer. All right, let's keep going here. And the last person that I want to introduce is also not in the room, but she is joining us by video. I'm going to let her introduce herself. So 1 second. Share this tab instead. All right. Can you see my YouTube video? That's what I'm sharing. Can you see that?
Yes.
Do you guys see YouTube?
Yes.
Yeah, we can
Yes.
see it.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Dion Avery, and I'm a city girl born and raised in West Baltimore in the St. Joseph's community, where the sidewalks and row homes were my playground, and nature wasn't always something we talked about. My journey with environmental justice didn't start in a classroom or on a big stage. It started small, actually tiny, with just me and a bag full of water bottles I decided to recycle. From there, I bought my first reusable bottle. Then I started eating less meat. And little by little, I began to question how much I consumed, how I moved through the world, and what it meant to truly care for this planet. It has been a beautiful and ongoing journey, one that has shaped not only who I am as a person, but who I am as an educator. Today, I'm proud to be the founding principal of Charm City Garden Montessori, a public Montessori high school that will be located on the west side of Baltimore, where young people will be taught not only how to thrive, but how to care for the earth and, most importantly, how to care for each other. That's why I'm so honored to join this conversation with the Baltimore Green Justice Workers Cooperative and to be in dialogue with change makers from Dar Es Salaam to Baltimore. I'm still growing, still learning, and deeply committed to helping the next generation to do the same. I'm so excited to build something beautiful together. So let's dive right in.
Let's dive
The
right in, Dion. Let's dive right in. Um, let's dive right on in. So the first question in tonight's discussion, and we're going to just honestly just jump in. We are grown, mature adults, and we can handle this. I'm not going to choose people. I think that we can just jump right on in, get in where we fit in. If anyone has to go, just let us know in the chat. We understand, but we hope that you can stay and get through this with us. Let's see. All right.
Nana Abina is back.
Oh, Nana, yes, please introduce yourself. We can hear you. Can we hear you? Is she there?
Hi.
Can you?
How are you feeling, Grandma?
Hi. How are you guys?
Oh, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. Yeah.
Take a minute.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes. Just 1 second.
So my mom is gonna have to get
Yeah, sorry about that. Been been waiting all this time. Okay. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, so I'm Nana Abena Grace James, the chairperson for the 6th Region TZ, and that's the 6th Region African Diaspora Alliance in Tanzania. And I'm also the CEO and managing director for a software development company. The 6th Region TZ is an organization that was started about 4 years ago, and we primarily help the historic diaspora all across the world, from US, UK, the Caribbean, who wants to repatriate to Africa and specifically Tanzania. And 3 of the pillars for the organization is environment, advocacy, and education. And for the environment, we started to do a beach cleanup in one of the touristy areas, because a lot of the people who were coming to Tanzania would oftentimes, that's one of the first things they do, go by the beach. And there was a lot of complaints that it was a bit messy and sometimes unsafe. And so knowing that the previous president had started cleanup day the last Saturday of every month, we decided to just continue his work. And so we've been doing the beach cleanup now for 4 years in several different beaches in Dar es Salaam. Part of our environment initiative is also to contribute to the reforestation initiative by the Tanzanian government to replant trees. So in the areas outside of Dar es Salaam, that's one of the things that we do. And all of this is done on the last Saturday of every month. And one quick thing I'll add is we have actually partnered with Chata Fisher, and we've been the partner that helps them with that data. So when we do our beach cleanup, they are there to then sort the different types of things that we're picking up, categorizing them, and then the ones that we could recycle, reuse, or do something with, those are looked at differently. I'm not deep in the technology portion of it, but I just want to say that when we first met them and found out what this is, I guess based on my background in technology, I was really excited to partner with them, and then to also have an idea of what we're doing in terms of beach cleanup and recycling and repurposing things that we're picking up, the positive impact that we have on the environment.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Asante Sana, thank you so much for all of your work and service. Nana Abena, welcome back. I also want to say a quick thank you for all of our guests who are here joining us today, whether you are here live with us, or you tuned in and listening in, or later on in the recorded version. For those of you who have to leave, if you do want a copy of the recorded version, be sure to drop your email address in the chat. And also you can visit the website, greenjusticeworkers.org, and join the newsletter, and you'll be sure to get a copy of this recording at request. Okay. All right, let's dive right in. Question number 1, discussion on the table right now for everyone here. How do environmental justice and climate literacy intersect? And what strategies can be used to ensure that communities, especially historically marginalized ones, are empowered with knowledge and resources to combat climate change? Who wants to get started? We've had a couple weeks to think about this, how the two intersect and connect. climate literacy and environmental justice. How do they intersect, and what strategies can be used to ensure that communities? Arnold Key, I know that you are thinking about that in a different lens, but if you also have any ideas, please jump out and throw some out there, especially historically marginalized ones. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the historical marginalization that's happened in both communities, in Baltimore and also in Dar es Salaam. This is a great time to exchange this history too. A lot of us here, a lot of us in Black America, we are not aware. I am finding out more and more living in Dar es Salaam that we are not fully aware of each other's history. And we don't know exactly how our communities have been marginalized. We don't know how your community has been marginalized and vice versa. So this is a great opportunity, history in the making for this exchange.
Yeah.
Get us started, someone.
Yeah.
Tell us.
So when you talk about history, if you start off with history, a really good framing for the conversation, or one potential framing for the conversation, is thinking about The Color of Law, the book that was written by Richard Rothstein, where he talks extensively about marginalization of communities through redlining and through public policy. And what that did, not only did it not only did it disconnect us from funding for housing, but it also co-located us with toxic sources. So Nadia was saying earlier, when she was talking about moving from healthcare to her current occupation, but the services that she was providing, it could be that what people were experiencing was by virtue of the fact that they were located near. Well, you were saying that they were working in a particular facility, but in addition to working in facilities that may have a toxic environment, many of us, because of where we grew up, were living near toxic environments, and that's where one of the ways that environmental justice comes into play is thinking about the role of our locations in the overall health outcomes that we experience.
Yeah, and just let me add to that. I think that they intersect because I've heard just everyone talk about public health, right? And how it affects us all, whether you're in Tanzania or whether you're in Baltimore.
There's an echo.
If we are not healthy and in our environment, right? And a lot of times we have people just growing up. One, because we haven't been educated about it. So that's one of the reasons why myself and Lynn are very passionate about going into the community and talking to people, because a lot of people don't pay attention. I call them aha moments. Like, until you mention it or say something, the people go like, okay, now I get it. But until you raise that awareness of how to engage people in their own communities, right, around a lot of these environmental issues, and it goes back to public health. We got a high rate of asthma, heart disease, high blood pressure. We on the top of everything. We on the top of the list for everything. That goes back to public health, pollution. And when he was talking about the environmental justice and the redlining, right here in Baltimore, they have been notorious on putting incinerators in our communities, right? And so it's a lot that happens and has happened, and some of the solutions to that is to continue to educate our communities. And I love the young lady, even though she's not here, that has the Green Montessori School, and educating the young people now and getting them engaged. So I think that's powerful as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much on this education piece. I just wanted to add that at Sustain Our Future Foundation, we actually have a HBCU fellowship program where we match HBCU students with environmental justice organizations. And I think that's something that we realize is that in the United States, we have these historically Black colleges and universities, and a lot of them don't have a lot of funding for environmental and climate education, even at the HBCUs. So sometimes we have really passionate Black students that are leaving HBCUs that don't have a really in-depth analysis of environmental issues, specifically environmental justice and climate justice. And then I also wanted to kind of create a little bit of a thread between the environmental justice and climate literacy, because I think that they're actually deeply connected and one and the same in many ways. And I think a lot about how when climate catastrophes and climate disasters happen, if you are in an environmental justice community, so if you're in a community that has all these toxic facilities, the impact of a climate disaster will hit you so much worse than in a non-toxic area. So when we look at areas that have toxic sewage, when you look at areas that have like oil refineries, when they're hit with hurricanes, that entire area will flood with toxic chemicals. And so when people come back to their homes, or if they don't even have the chance to leave their homes, they're getting hit with all of this flooding, but also with a lot of pollution. So there is a deep interconnection between like environmental justice and climate literacy and climate change. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Amazing. Thank you so
jump
much.
in.
Jump in there,
I'll jump.
Doctor.
Yeah. Was it yesterday or was it Monday or Tuesday this week? I was at the Tuesday, of course, Earth Day. National Academy of Medicine had a climate summit, and I was on a panel about narrative and storytelling, and how what we need to do about talking about climate change. And I mentioned, during that presentation, that it's really important to make sure those voices who are most impacted are telling their own stories. So if you think about the story of environmental justice, climate injustices that people are experiencing, I think we have to lead with that. So if you're talking about the connection between the two, we can talk about history. We can look at across the diaspora, colonialism, neocolonialism, exploitation of people and resources, right? So that's the connecting thread. The transatlantic slave trade and the impacts across the diaspora, the current extractive industries, extractive capitalism that's impacting folks across the continent of Africa. You can look at China, you can look in the US, you have the global waste trade, how waste has been pushed into from communities of color, Black communities with incinerators or landfills in the US or recycling facilities, and to other parts of the world, including Africa. Again, extraction in the US when it comes to oil and gas, extraction, oil and gas in Africa. So again, those connections are there. And when we think about these issues, we have to talk about the compounding vulnerabilities and susceptibilities from a public perspective. So we have groups who are in Tanzania, and I didn't know it was pronounced that way, y'all. So I appreciate I'm gonna start pronouncing it the right way, because that's the right way to pronounce it. In Tanzania, who are dealing with their own compounding vulnerabilities, social, geographic hazard. Then you come in the U.S. with Baltimore. Getting back to history, y'all, Baltimore, the first city in the country that had racism-based zoning. It got thrown out, right? So what's passed is prologue, talking about Sankofa, thinking about what happened in the past, not using Sankofa the wrong way, but happened in the past, right, and how it impacts today. That's part of the reason why you have code red and differential housing, differential lead exposures, differential heat issues, right? Differential pollution exposures in Baltimore. You come to DC as well. You go communities of color with Black folks are across the US, right? So those connections are there. But when we talk about literacy, you got to know the past. That's part of literacy. You got to know that you got to have access to the tools. That's part of literacy. You got to know what power means. That's part of literacy. You got to understand that root causes drive climate change. Root causes that drive climate impacts. Root causes of why some of us are impacted more than others, right? Why we have inequities in preparedness, response, recovery, mitigation, adaptation, resilience, right? So that literacy is not just about education. Literacy is about critical praxis and about power, the ability to use that power to act. Okay, I'll pass the mic.
Literacy is about critical practice and using that power and that knowledge to act. Perfect. Love that. Yes, please jump on in there. I see your hands. Who was there? Ms. Bosworth, go ahead, honey. Welcome, Carrie Boo.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
I'd like to kind of piggyback on some of what has already been said. in Baltimore, particularly, a lot of issues were never discussed, and there are probably many people who never even knew such things as when we think about the areas of Turner Station, Sparrows Point, Fort Holabird, Aberdeen Proving Grounds, because my dad served in 4 branches of the military. Aberdeen Proving Grounds actually has all kinds of nuclear crap built underneath of there. Okay. Same thing with Fort Holabird. So people who didn't come from generations where Blacks were talking to each other about these conditions, we're talking many years ago. Okay. I am 73 years old. So, okay. How many years are we talking about if my father told me that as a child? So we haven't even dealt with the issues that were hidden. As Dr. Wilson said, when I took a job at the real estate title company back in the early 70s, that's when I found out that the actual deeds and in the land records, it actually told you where Black people couldn't live. They had chickens, all kinds of issues, and then they would put and Black people. And if you go downtown to the courthouse on the 6th floor in land records, it's not wiped away. It's still there. I did title searches. It's still there. It's just that they don't enforce it. So now that 47 is in office, you don't know what they're going to do at any moment because these things are still on the books. And I think that the main thing is that we have to educate each other and share, because we have many generations. So if somebody can pass on information that they know so that you can go back and see just how much of this is continuing to go on in Baltimore. We had Baltimore City Hospital, which is now part of Johns Hopkins out on Eastern Boulevard. Okay. That was my mom worked there in the laundry department, and in building D, they had to actually mask up when they bought a particular group of linens in. This is way before the pandemics because my parents both died in 1991, both of them. They died 6 months apart. Okay. They had to mask up to do this laundry for Baltimore City Hospital. And my mom, along with many of the other employees here, they all died from cancer. Nobody talking about that. So there are so many issues that are going on, that have gone on, that have been swept under the rug. It's just a mess. So I think that if we talk and we can find out where all of these environmental issues are in Baltimore itself, then maybe the cleanup can start. Because it is a big problem, and you're not gonna have asthma go away. My son, who's 40 years old, was a chronic asthmatic. I was self-employed because who's hiring me and I'm off work 2 times a month with a child in the hospital? Who's doing that? But it taught me something. It was better to be self-employed in the long run than have to put up with some of the foolishness that's going on now. But the bottom line is that there are many children who still are suffering from that because of the different areas that they live in. And it's not just the inner city. That's the thing. That's not the only place that this is happening, that this environmental problem is. It's in older homes, period. And we have to do something about that and be honest about it, because it's really important. I taught in the school system. Many kids have asthma and other respiratory issues. But as long as they don't talk about it, then it's swept under the rug. Look at the numbers of students in every school and check it out because these little kids, they're suffering. And we're in 2025 and it shouldn't be so bad for them. You know, I mean, it's sad, but it's real. But we have to talk about it. This whole thing where we don't open up, that's not going to work. That is
Absolutely.
definitely not going to work.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm so sorry to hear about how close this is, in the way that it has arrived at your front door. And I'm sure a lot more of us have so many different stories about the adverse effects here and how it hits our communities, in our households. Malik, please share. We would love to hear from the East African side of things and how these things
Yeah,
intersect.
thank you. Just to add on what everyone just shared over here, my take is that environmental justice, climate literacy, these things are inseparable. And true justice requires that all communities, especially the marginalized ones, they especially have access to knowledge, to the tools that will enable them to make these informed climate decisions. So the thing that, like, for example, in Dar es Salaam, that I personally see, that we see over here in Tanzania, is that mostly, of course, the situation with flooding, right? Urban, like, infrastructures, the roads. So when it rains over here, it's an issue. When it rains, the roads just get very, very bad. They get very unusable. And these things are, or these problems stem from these same communities, and we see that it's because of the lack of the knowledge, right? The knowledge to make the informed climate decisions. People just cut down trees simply for, profit, to sell them, to make firewood. There's a lot of that going on. So if our communities could get access to this knowledge, our communities, especially, like, that is where, like, you know methodologies like using technology to get data, to generate data from this impact that is being done. I think this is a great resource. you know Getting the resources from the communities themselves. Um another aspect that I believe is very valuable is circularity. With Chatafisha, and what we are doing over here is, using the data of the impact to bring value, to bring more value, to attract funding for these different impact projects. So using the data to attract the funding. And, I think circular projects could be supported in this kind of way. And so we could build and extract value from the communities that need that value. And so we could just channel back that value to building back more resilient communities, and, disseminating that knowledge to the people that, to improve their climate intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Malik. I appreciate that. I don't know if you guys can see, but this is an image of the adverse effects of flooding when it rains here in Dar es Salaam. And this is actually not far from me, from my neighborhood where I live. I don't know if some of you guys here in Dar, um, if you remember last rainy season, it was like off. It was extended like 3 or 4 months. It was like from November to January. We had a lot of flooding in Kunduchi, in Bahari Beach, in Tegeta. Some of you Dar es Salaam folks remember this flooding here last season?
Yes.
Can you guys see?
Yep.
Okay. So this is an idea of when Malik mentioned
Not
as
yet.
far as, no, you can't see. Really? Okay. You can't see my screen?
I can see it.
Okay, thank you.
Is it like a road that's cut off or something?
Yeah, it's a road this was a bridge.
Okay, yeah.
This was a bridge that fell in. The road fell in. Actually, I don't even understand what happened. I'm not even going to speak on that. I don't understand what happened. But infrastructure, all that stuff, lack of education, lack of training, resources, all of that is what you see here. And let me tell you, this doesn't mean that it rained and rained and rained and rained for days and weeks. This could be 4 or 5 hours of rain, not even consecutively. Just it rained for 2 hours this morning, it's going to rain for another hour, and then tomorrow rain for another hour or so, whatever. And then over the 2 3 days you have accumulation of water and poor systems and all of that. And this is the type of thing you get in the middle of the road, a main road where people have to travel to get to work and get food and things like that. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a visual. But someone else had their hand up or had something to contribute. Did I miss you?
Yeah, I was just going to touch on what Guy was talking about the asthma, children having asthma. One of the reasons that also really piqued me was because I have asthma. Now, I acquired asthma. I didn't have asthma as a child or anything. Um, then also, my sister has asthma. We didn't have asthma as children. Both of my grandchildren were born with respiratory issues. One of my grandson sometimes has to use or be on one of those nebulizer machines. Now, they live right down the street from JHU, Johns Hopkins University, right here in Baltimore City. And so when we look at all these different aspects, right? And sometimes in our communities, we think that environmental and climate change and these issues are, when you hear about environmental issues, right? Some people go directly to think they're talking about tree huggers, right? Or people that don't look like us, right? So they don't sometimes always connect that the environment and environmental justice is us, right? And then you can be involved too. Like, so it's not just the tree huggers. It's not like just like the people, in Sierra Club. They're all fine people, but there's a whole different cultural aspect to it, right? And Guy is absolutely right. I went to my daughter's school one day for in the nurse's office. She had a tub, one of those plastic tubs. It was full of asthma medication, inhalers. And I said, wow, that was just like, it was just it's eye opening. It really is.
Wow. That's a powerful statement, y'all. The environmental justice is us. Absolutely. Absolutely. Someone mentioned earlier in the conversation about how important it is for us even having our own resources. You know what I mean? Like we are what we need. I see two more hands. I want to get to Zayada Kasimu, and then afterwards, Miss Angela Sales. Kasimu, welcome.
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Okay, so my name is Yada. I'm also from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And first of all, I'm happy to be here and I'm a new member. So I love to connect also with you guys. So I would love to add from what Malik has said, especially in Tanzania and Dar es Salaam. What people lack is knowledge, and what is this knowledge is equitable access to climate knowledge, especially to those who are most vulnerable. And what also is lacking is about inclusion. um, we always give knowledge to community, but there are those people, especially indigenous community, who are the one who affected most of the time, and they need this knowledge. And most of them, they're not even aware about what is climate change, what is going on, about the impact, and how they can both adapt and mitigate through this impact. But going to the way forward on what we can do, I think there's the two ways. And I have been working on this and I have been success. There is success that I always made, especially to grassroots community. I'm based in Dar es Salaam, but I'm working in other region, Tanga, Dodoma, to the grassroots community. So the first one is about being the leadership skill to this community, especially to women and youth. We are going there, give them like a knowledge and awareness, so that they can always bring this knowledge to to their leaders, to their family, I think this is the best way of expanding the knowledge, expanding the solution, and they can even develop their own solution because we all live in different area with a different perspective. But when it comes to solution, the people who are living in that area are the ones who know what they can do. So being them in the space of being a leaders, bring them to the space of being their own to have the ownership of their own solution. I think this is the best way to do. But also we have faith leaders. I think this is now the time to bring faith leaders, cultural leaders to this platform so that they can have an access uh, to policies decision, being in a space of where they can say no, this is not we can do. As from my community, I think this is what we can do. But also we all know faith leaders and this cultural leader have that power to be listened from their community. So we can go as we activists or NGOs leaders, but we can't be listened. But when we bring these faith leaders and cultural leaders to this space, it will be easy for them and from their community to listen, being aware, being well informed from the impact of climate and those solutions. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here.
Very interesting. Nice to meet you, Zayada. Can I ask you what organization are you with? How did you hear about this call tonight?
I'm working with Green Conserva. This is an NGO, a registered NGO, and I'm very thankful to my friend Carrie from US. She's the one who shared the poster and the link for this Zoom meeting, and she's also here. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you and welcome to both of you. If you don't mind, can you please put your contact information in the chat? We would love to connect with you. Secondly, you raised a point about faith leaders entering into this space. Very interesting conversation we got to continue to have. And how that looks culturally across the two continents, right? Let's go into Miss Angela Sales. Welcome, welcome, Miss Angela. How did you hear about us tonight? And please jump in the conversation.
Greetings. Thank you, Amber, for pulling together this fabulous, wonderful group of experts. My name is Dr. Angela Sells. I'm located in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm a cooperator, so I learned actually about this event from two places. There's a Black cooperators group that we have, a WhatsApp group, and I just was looking. I think Lynn posted it. I've worked in the food co-op space for about a decade now, working with the Food Cooperative Initiative, Collective Courage Fund, and National Black Food and Justice Alliance. But then I saw my sister and Nana also posted in the Tanzania REPAT group, which is her group, Nana Abena. We are actually colleagues. We do a lot of advocacy and activism in the diaspora, on behalf of global African diaspora. And so she's a sister and shero of mine. So when I saw it twice, I said, oh, I should show up for this. But my question is around strategies that marginalized communities need to get resources or to be empowered with resources. I know we've talked about knowledge and maybe different networks, but I work here in Cleveland in the community on neighborhood green space development and business training. I developed a 12-week curriculum. And we have 30,000 vacant lots in our city, which is, probably prevalent amongst other marginalized communities in the US. 20,000 of them sits in our city land bank. And so we've been working to advocate that the residents have access to steward or own that land for green space development, whether that's growing agricultural or creating safe spaces for children or doing farmers markets or playgrounds, pocket parks, or all the ideas that we have to utilize green space. And since you all are doing it in Baltimore and have that connection with the continent, I'm just wondering, what strategies that you're using to galvanize resources to develop or combat, what's going on in climate change, like in terms of projects, and is your model can it be replicated in other cities, like these connections? Is there an entry point? So I'm interested in how we galvanize resources to realize projects, real time projects by our people to help counter, the impacts of climate change, but also benefit the communities that are doing the work. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. I would love to actually ask Lynn or Kim to jump in and give us a quick synopsis, but I do want to preface it with saying that that is the type of conversation that we definitely plan on having next month. May 22nd is answering those kind of questions. But until then, the conversation's been right since we've even been here trying to fund initiatives through Baltimore Green Justice and here in Tanzania and in Baltimore. So Lynn, Kim, do you guys want to jump in real quick, at least touch this so we can spark something and bring folks back next May so we can keep expanding on? Great question. Thank you so much, Dr. Angela Sales. Rightfully so.
Dr. Sales, it's so good to meet you, and thank you so much for listening to Spirit and showing up, right? And so, what I can say to you is that we are a work in progress. We are part of the Black Cooperators WhatsApp group because we have the word cooperative in our name. We are set up as a 501c3 right now, but we are working actively to launch a worker co-op, which will work independently of the nonprofit. And the model that we're using right now is boots to the ground. We set up the nonprofit first, so we've been getting funding through grants and fundraising. But our goal is to create the co-op where we have a product or service for the people, by the people, that we are making available, but also using that as an opportunity to fund the work that we're talking about here so that we're not so dependent on grants. We're not so dependent on some of the other governmental agencies, that we have the freedom to be able to dig a little deeper, right? And so this is a start of that. So we've been working with Amber, trying to grow relationship, build trust over the last year and a half, almost 2 years, to get us to this point. And so it's a stepping stone. And so I would love to follow up with you, to keep connected with you, and we could, figure out how to continue to grow the work.
Ashe, thank you.
Absolutely. Kabisa, as they say here, Kabisa, absolutely. To grow the work. We are work in progress. So a great question. Thank you so much. And I see one last hand up before we head to question 2. E. Nelson, can you turn your video on? If having your video interrupts your internet, I understand.
No problem. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Welcome,
awesome.
welcome. Start with telling us how you heard about tonight's call and then jump right on in.
Oh my goodness. Well, Lynn Pender, I think, we met on LinkedIn, and she introduced me to this whole initiative in Baltimore, and I had to be open and honest and say, I had no clue. I hold 2 master's degrees from accredited college and all of that, and through bachelor's degree, and lived in an impoverished, underserved community and didn't have a clue about this. When it comes to giving us a month in February, this is not one of the concerns. It's mostly talking about, Martin Luther King, bless his soul, and all the wonderful things he's done, and every other activist that has done something in the world to help with creating a community for not just African Americans, but the other minority population. But I had no clue about this. And so, what my question, I did see that someone said about community leaders. And so, I am a pastor, and I deal with a lot of different community people and people in the community and other businesses and organizations. And I would like to see this be a change agent for it. I live in Atlanta. So for example, Atlanta, how we do this, how we replicate this, how do we make it aware? Again, I come from an underserved population, so I understand what's going on in the community, and why people don't want to learn these type of things, why it's not really openly available to people, as far as finding resources for that and going to it and actually doing something with a material, not just reading it to read it, but read it to understand it. And so that's a difference. So I was just putting in my input that yes, I do think that leaders in the community need to be a part of these initiatives, but it's the how do we get that replicated from what you all are doing in Baltimore and Tanzania. And if I didn't pronounce right, I apologize. But how to do that and replicate that in other parts of the world and other parts of the United States.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. You are welcome in this space. Thank you so much. It's a great question. How can we replicate? And those, again, 522, pull out your phones, pull out your pens, save the date, because we're having that conversation. How can we? First of all, we're going to be hearing from residents. What are some of the issues? Like, a lot of the professionals are here on the call tonight. The grassroots workers are here on the call tonight. We will be hearing from residents, but guess what? We are also the residents, right? But we want to hear from the residents also who are not aware of what they could do politically, what they can do, with or without resources, what they can do with a lack of knowledge or little to work with. So next month, we're going to definitely stretch up on that. But thank you so much. Wonderful question. I think we're going to jump into question 2. Was that everyone? Before I move on, I saw that you gentlemen were having an awesome exchange in the chat. So do you mind, guys? I know somebody put something in here. I don't want to miss it. But guys, check out the chat. They're putting documents in there. We got to download, save stuff, get it all. Tanzania, grab it, Tanzania, grab it. But if you don't mind, Dr. Sakoba, can you just speak to really quickly what you guys were exchanging in the chat? It looked nice and juicy, and I don't want to miss it before I head to question 2.
Oh yeah, just a few things about we're talking about. I use the terms in chat: empowerment science and liberation science. So how you empower people with tools and for liberate from what we're talking about, extractive capitalism, environmental slavery, environmental oppression. And so we were talking about data availability is important, but a lot of it in the U.S. for everybody, a lot of the data, these things called environmental justice screening and mapping tools have been scrubbed from the net. And so we're just talking about where the data is available. Arnold mentioned that he's downloaded some of the data to do a model. For those who are interested, I helped to build a lot of mapping tools, mapping environmental justice in the state of Maryland, also in the Mid-Atlantic. I can provide assistance to folks in Tanzania. And then one last point, which I didn't mention, but I'll pass the mic back after this. I'm also editor-in-chief of the Journal of Environmental Justice. So it's the main journal that focuses on environmental justice issues. So that's another opportunity for folks who are online in Tanzania and other parts of the continent. We want to get more submissions to our journal from folks who are doing the work on the ground on issues of environmental and climate justice. So just a quick plug. I'll pass the mic.
Is that information in the chat as well?
I didn't put it, but I'll add it to the chat.
Please, yes. Thank you so much. This is the exchange we need. Wonderful.
Oh, and I also talked about. I'm sorry. I also added in the chat. We have a climate justice fellows program, and we have about 72 fellows, and we just started this year. We have a global track now. I think about 18, 20 fellows are non-U.S. I think most of those folks are from the continent. I'm not sure which countries, but that's another opportunity for some cross-pollination. So I'll pass the mic.
You guys hear that over here in Tanzania? Malik, you guys hear that? Loiben? How about Loiben, Lenine? Any of you there want to jump in? I haven't heard from you yet on this, the intersection of climate justice and environmental. Are you still with us? Maybe not. All right, let's jump into question 2. After this, we're going to take a quick break. I want to show you guys some things. Snapshot of a gallery of just documenting some wonderful times here in Tanzania and also in Baltimore, some of the work that they've been working on. And we would love to share that with you. Real brief, we'll take a 5-minute break after discussion 2. So let's dive right in. What career path, actually, we won't have time for a 5-minute break. We're going to keep going. What career paths exist within environmental justice and climate change work, and what skills or experiences are most valuable for young professionals looking to enter the field? This is a 2-part question. At least take 1 part. Who haven't we heard from yet? Tell us what career paths exist within environmental justice. Lynn, do you mind putting that in the chat? And then the second part of that is, and climate change work. And then the second part is what skills or experiences are most valuable for the young professionals or entry-level professionals looking to enter into this field. Which career path? Who can speak to this?
Yeah, I can speak to this just a little bit, and I imagine many others can too as well. But I would say that in the United States, at least, there has been not as much of a focus on folks getting into almost like trade skills. And so I think that as we think about the green transition and the growth of renewable energy, we're going to need more electricians. We're going to need more folks with just like some of the trade skills that have been lost over time, because we see a lot of shortages in this field that actually make it really challenging for the green transition. I think there's also a good amount of folks that have to go through some level of like skill reassessment or skill changes as we go from coal infrastructure to renewable energy. And so at Sustain Our Future Foundation, we're thinking about that a lot in terms of as coal mines close down, how can we make it so that folks are able to transition from those jobs into the green infrastructure and green climate jobs?
That transitional work, that's awesome. That's awesome. Very good. Thank you, Nadia. Dr. Sakobi, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So, I mean, it's various. I mean, these issues we work on, there's so many different ways to get into the space. So, biology, ecology, botany, right? Planning, engineering, agriculture, sustainable development. So business. I mean, on this point, let me just say this, y'all. On this point of my earlier point about we need to build our own stuff, and it's very important. I know Arnold's gonna probably jump in here some too. But businesses, green businesses, I know we have, I think Malik, I love I couldn't hear everything what Malik was saying, but I was getting excited, Malik, when you were talking, because that technology, bringing in green technology data, that empowerment, engaging our communities, we should be doing that. In the U.S., if y'all know this whole debate, I don't want to get too much into about between Booker T. Washington, W. Du Bois, and going back to the previous point and Nadia's point about trades. Like, we're in a moment now, we need to have more people in trades, but building their own businesses around those trades. So electrification, energy efficiency, EVs, right? There's so much that can be done. We were in the U.S. again, for those of you in Tanzania, there was this huge fund called the Community Change Grant. It was $2 billion fund. They received 2,700 applications, about $40 billion requests for only $2 billion. But the great thing about that funding opportunity was they were talking about real climate solutions. They were going to give people monies to invest in green infrastructure, to provide people jobs, to do electrification, to do HVAC, HVAC work, change heat pumps, right? Change out appliances. So to me, like some of the foundational skills are really in those trades, as was previously mentioned. But also, again, I think we need to have more people, and I love the work that Lynn is doing, the work that y'all are doing in Baltimore, and around businesses ownership. Think about energy, think about ownership, and think about, democracy around ownership, right? But really about sovereignty, right? Bringing in sovereignty. And I know that's not answer the question, but I think that should be part of the goal, is creating our own ecotopias, right? And how do we do this? So having the trades, but also these various pathways in engineering, planning, environmental health, mapping skills are important. Being able to grow your own food is important. regenerative agriculture, sustainable agriculture, permaculture, the food, energy, water nexus, water recycling, right? Water management, all those things are important. But I think we need to make sure we have our own institutions training our own people, and we're setting up our own businesses. So I'll pass the mic.
I don't think you can pass the mic that you just dropped. That was the mic drop. Mr. Key.
Yeah, so I agree with everything that Dr. Wilson just said. One thing one primary issue I think also needs to be covered is this idea of system thinking, because all of the things that he mentioned are all critically important, but proportion needs to be considered as well, right? Because in some areas, in some regions, they may need one kind of infrastructure developed or may need to lean into one kind of business because of the challenges that are faced versus another. And I think organizations like a collection of people like this that perhaps have their fingers in different parts of the economy or understand more about the environmental risks that are being met or faced, excuse me, by different communities could have more insight as to like where the emphasis needs to be. So that's the other piece of this is we need all of those things to happen, but the region, Baltimore versus Tanzania, and the local economies, the local needs, the local strengths they each have should play a role in the actual formula that's computed to determine like where effort should go. So again, I agree with all of that, but then at some point there's got to be this meta level of thinking to figure out how it should all work together.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for your contributions. I want to ask particularly how to navigate through here. I don't know if you're available. Carrie Bolton, if you're available, do you mind tapping in here, saying a few things? If you are available, not sure. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, peace. I'm just excited that this call is happening. Shout out to Nadia for the invite. Very thankful to be in conversation with everyone. I actually just came back from Renew Our Power gathering where hundreds of people from across the globe were together to talk about renewable energy and how we're renewing our power in our communities. And that's how I got the pleasure to meet Ziada and many others. So building those connections right back, even when I was there, I said, I'm from the US, but really I'm from Baltimore. So that's all y'all need to know is that I'm from Baltimore. And that's important. As we build out that conversation from a global standpoint, what that means for the state of Maryland, what that means for making sure that communities are connected. I'm really excited about everything that's happening right here in my own neck of the woods. I live in Upton, which is in central West Baltimore. We have a lot happening. It is a historic community. So when we talk about redlining, the row homes that I live in are a part of that redlining. And I think about that every time I think about how old this home was and being built in 1920 and what that meant at that time period. But I also think about the indigo farms that are growing right on Argyle Ave, where we're partnering with communities not only in the Gullah Geechee area, but also across West Africa, who are also farming indigo, and how we're building those connections right here. So it was very right on time for this conversation to happen. I hope that there's continued opportunities for our communities to connect and to build. And so the diaspora knows the importance of Baltimore in that conversation. So thank y'all.
Welcome. See, I felt it in my spirit. I said, Carrie seems like she got something she might want to say. Thank you, sis. I appreciate hearing from you. Thank you so much. Guys, it is 7:56. We have about 5 more minutes on this call, but I dare to jump in to the last question just because. But first, I want to hear from Imani. You have your hand up. Please speak to us. We've been waiting to hear from you. Welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me here. So I'll just quick background. Lynn had invited me, and thank you so much, Lynn. I work with Blackwitty. We're DC based. I just moved to Baltimore, me personally, last year. But I work with Blackwitty, and um, I was working with Lynn to try to build some bridges between Baltimore and DC and the Black communities there. But I wanted to talk about a conference I went to yesterday. It's the Africa Finance and Trade Conference in DC. And I knew what I was going in for. I didn't expect anything innovative or helpful. I just wanted to know what they're thinking. And it was worse than I imagined. I feel like all of you in this space should know what the new version of, third wave neocolonialism that they're planning for Africa is. Because it's a space where they had people, they have, multinationals, they have these like Arab Gulf Fund organization, Israeli-based agricultural firm. You have World Bank, IMF, and even the African diaspora that are there are former World Bank, former IMF, very, very much, Black capitalist and not for the wide population of Africa or the general Pan-African global Black community. So I had written this out and it was running a little long to type in, so I'm just going to read it. It's going to take 3 minutes if y'all don't mind. It's okay.
Carrie Boo.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't know the response, but thank you.
I'm sorry. Carrie Boo means you're welcome.
Okay, is there a response that I should use?
Asante Sana.
Asante
Sana.
Asante Sana is like you can say a thank you back.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Also, I'm originally from Chad, former French colony, to give you a little background of what we struggle with over there right now. And I have spent time there. I worked at the bank there. I worked with the State Department. It was a time I learned and left. So at the conference, the most disturbing discussion was on agriculture. They discussed their hopes of large-scale investment in the form of private equity, similar to what's happened in U.S. agriculture. And they said it all with a straight face. And they mentioned they mentioned environmental impact once or twice, and it was just to like hit their mark, but there was no depth about it. They kept on about the failure to thrive in Africa and laid the blame at the feet of Africans, like the general population of Africa and on the continent, and the responsibility to fix it at the feet of the diaspora. Every question that was asked, the final response was, you go back and you fix it, as if the diaspora have not attempted, or even the people in this room right now that are working, I know that they could speak for hours on the barriers that they face in their countries. And, I listed some of the entities that were there. They completely ignored the context of colonialism, neocolonialism, white supremacy, any of that stuff. And the catchphrase that they kept using was, the world shouldn't feed Africa. Africa needs to feed the world. As if they haven't been like suckling at Africa for all of its resources for centuries since the Atlantic slave trade. And then they spoke about moving away from small scale farming, which, if you know, that is what leads to loss of biodiversity. They've already been doing that through nonprofit and aid work, which then, you can hurt the stability of all plant life, wildlife, the integrity of the soil, livelihood of the people. None of that mattered. They're just thinking about the people of Africa and the resources all as a commodity. They were speaking about literally almost like drooling, talking about the fast growing population, how youthful the African population is. And all I could think is you're just talking about labor force as a commodity. And, then they were getting into, I don't know, it was a lot more into other things that is not related to this particular topic, but I think we can agree that environmental issues is, relevant across the board it should be in any industry. They're talking about microfinance. I worked at the bank. I worked at small and medium business department, which in Africa, microfinance, you're talking about the majority of people who are making less than $100 a month. $100 a month is the minimum wage, and that's just on paper. So who are you microfinancing? I did that. I tried to push my department to do that. We did all the planning and then nothing ever happened because they're looking at risk. There's no infrastructure to analyze risk. But so the people that need that money is women who are at the market selling their vegetables and selling the fish and whatever. And they're the ones that are providing the livelihood of their families, but they don't have access to this. And so I had mentioned traditional solidarity legacy of African economics, pre-colonialism. And why don't we tap into that? And I was completely ignored. And I think everyone here, if you spent some time in Africa, you know about like in Chad, we call it pare. So it would be like a group of people who'll come together and throw a party each month. Everyone puts money in the basket. I've heard of things like that here in Baltimore and DC too.
Oh, baby, yeah, Black
Yeah,
America, we call it rent parties.
exactly.
Okay.
So people will do that to
And
finance a business, to finance their
yeah,
homes and things like
yeah.
that. And I was completely ignored. And I was like, oh, that's right. I'm in a room of Black capitalists. I'm not
Mhm.
like I forgot where I
Yeah,
was. So I
yeah,
just feel like
absolutely.
everyone should know, especially if you're working on the continent, what they have planned. They have a plan for private equitizing the entire continent. You have Arab Gulf people talking about, oh yeah, we don't look at the local cultures. They're so like African problems and things are so common that we just group them in groups of 22 countries. And I'm like shamelessly in front of a bunch of Africans who are here clapping. And yeah, so that's my rant.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other call we can honestly what y'all doing afterward. But no, awesome to know, and it's good to be ahead of it and looking forward as to what's coming here. I can see it too, being here for what, almost 4 years. You see it, and guess what, it's progressing fast. I don't know about the rest of the continent, but in Dar es Salaam it is progressing fast. The Indian groups, the Chinese groups, the Arab groups, the Turkish groups, the German groups, and as she mentioned, also the diaspora groups that are also coming back and wanting to privately equitize. So this throws us back into the wheel of environmental justice and the health disparities, and how these communities, I see how gentrification is playing its role here just as much as I do in Washington, D.C., just as much as I do in Baltimore City. It's happening here. As a matter of fact, for a lot of us that are coming here, I even question, are we the ones to do it? Because, we want the affordable rent, the really cheap rent, but it's still higher than the average market. And so by us even being here, we are, the cost of living, the cost of rent, the cost of produce and things like that are increasing. And so that's a whole other conversation. But see how this all ties back into the two places that we're looking at, Baltimore City and Dar es Salaam, historically looking at the oppression and the capitalistic oppression and slavery and colonization. And still here we are today, and we are pretty much eating from the same tree, unfortunately. So, but thank you for sharing that. If you have more information about that conference and can throw it in the chat, I just grabbed the title. But if there's like a social media platform or a website or something that you can share, Imani, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. And
That's
shout
linked.
out to whoever invited you. I forgot what you said, who you said. But thank you so much. All right, last question, guys. I'm going to just throw it in the chat here and let's just take 5 minutes. And then we're going to wrap it up because I want to honor everybody's time. We've already lost some people. And just a quick reminder that what will happen is this will be edited for YouTube, for Baltimore Green Justice YouTube channel. Once it's been done, we will make sure that you get the link. Okay. So, final question is, how can international collaboration, such as between Baltimore and Dar es Salaam, strengthen climate resilience efforts, and what lessons can be shared between these two regions? As we seek to respond, I'm going to share some images, but I want us to really think about how can international collaboration between the two places strengthen climate resilience efforts, and what lessons can be shared between the two regions. Zayada, if you're still with us, do you mind jumping in? I would like to hear, or Nana Abena, I would like to hear more from the Tanzania side, or anyone else we haven't heard from. Baba, Caribou David, Caribou. How can international collaboration
Hello.
strengthen climate resilience efforts, and what lessons can we be shared? Can we share between two regions?
Hello again.
Hello.
Okay. Thank you for calling. And I was digesting the questions, but from my experience, uh, the biggest thing I think in Tanzania, what the best thing we need from international collaboration is adaptation strategies of climate, because of a climate impact, because most of our community, as I said earlier, they're not aware on how they can do, and some of the things that hinder them is about resources. you know um you can have a knowledge, but if you don't have a resources to adapt this, you can even remain with the knowledge. But we are trying as organization, with international collaboration, we are trying to give them like local knowledge on how they can adapt. But we believe from international regions and countries, they have like a capacity, because as I saw you shared what happened on the flood in Dar es Salaam last year. So I can tell you, like, people have lost their things, have lost their home, have lost like resources that have been working for years to get those resources. So when these things happen, our community need more knowledge and capacity. If this flood happens again, what can they do? What can they maybe uh, recover? Can get that recovery education. And one of the best thing we are trying to do, especially from my organization, we are trying to engage them with the entrepreneurship skills, because most of the numbers in Tanzanian community have been engaging in small businesses. So have that income, have that money, and have the skills of doing the businesses will help them. Even when they get that direct impact, they'll be have money to recover. They'll be have like a capacity maybe to get another new areas for living. But also we need like more resources. I and Carrie, we were in a repower renew our power gathering, and what we learned is about solar initiatives. So we have that local community that no electricity, no any source for light energy or even clean cooking energy. But we need that initiative from maybe the countries that have been developed to our country, and to know how we can engage this with our community in both adaptation and mitigation. So the first thing is about resource. but also we need the capacity building knowledge on how even this. We all know that this are continuing to happen. So what are we doing? Before going to mitigation, we need fast adaptation capacity building knowledge. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate your, anybody have a response or any addition to add as we wrap up?
Hi.
Welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. I could just add some things to what she just said as far as how do I see international collaborations? Okay, so collaborating internationally, it offers great opportunities, right, to bridge, um, and especially from here, in Africa, local understanding, underground practice and ways of doing things with global um, uh, innovation, global, I would say, skills. Yeah. The historic ties between the African diaspora and in the cities like Baltimore and Dar, we can create a unique foundation for partnership based on certain actions. Um, let's say we could create um, a, a platform for knowledge exchange. Some of the things that you guys are doing over there, share with us. And we have things uh, that we think, if adopted in the West, can be beneficial to some extent. So there's that. There is youth exchanges. So for the young people that's coming up, I find that especially here on the continent, we're kind of lagging behind in certain kinds of awareness. So where in some cases, in let's say Baltimore, the recycling initiatives or awareness or just the impact that certain things that we're doing to the environment will have, that people know. Here it's not that widespread, so I find that even in the areas that where we clean up the beach, they the fishermen, I've talked to and especially some of the young ones, I've spoken to them, and they do see that there is more plastic that they're collecting in the nets. There are less fish and the sizes are smaller, but they're not connecting the two things. And so that's where I see great collaboration, probably workshops that even us here at Six Region TZ can set up and have you guys on the other end, kind of like what we're doing, but a workshop with the young people and the people who are out there that needs to just see another side, of another side of the world that's dealing with similar things, and then sharing stories. And then the last thing I would say is, speaking of sharing stories, yeah, exchanging things that work. Some of the things that we're doing, that you guys are doing in Baltimore, can be implemented here and vice versa, like I mentioned earlier. And so having that, shared narrative, shared connection is something that I really think can create mutual benefit, mutual empowerment. Hence, it's a no-brainer to really start, foster, grow, and expand these international collaborations. And that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
And that's a lot. I appreciate it. So valuable. Thank you so much, Nana. And I just wanted to go back. I was sharing some images. I don't know, did you guys get to see it? I was sharing
Yes.
some of the images from the
Yes.
beach cleanup.
Yeah, you
Yes,
could
and
see
we had
those.
a special. Okay,
Yeah.
good. We had a special Asante Sana
hmm
for the 6th regional group because they every month the Safi cleanup day goes out and clean up the beach. We joined them one time and that was enough for me. Okay, so Asante Sana for those who keep going, and it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. And just finding out how all of that gets there and all the things attached and associated with that is a whole
Mhm.
nother need for therapy, right?
Another
Racial,
that's another session, you know.
yeah,
But
whole racial
can I just do
injustice.
a shameless plug on the third? We normally do our beach cleanup the last Saturday of every month, but this month we're moving it to the third because there's a whole bunch of holidays. And we also, this time, we got a lot of support from the local government, from the regional government. We have a couple of embassies who are sending their people. So this, the Saturday, May 3rd, we're having our combination of Safi Day and Earth Day celebration. So we're asking everybody in Dar es Salaam to come out and clean up the beach along this area.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, you are all appreciated. Thank you so much, guys. We are going to have to wrap up now. I would say in this last minute or so, please make sure and scroll through the chat and grab all of the contact information that you need. Download all the PDFs, grab all the links. I see some people speaking to some very specific things that you might want to catch them real quick. So take these last couple minutes to do that. And I just want to say thank you all again for coming out. I know that, the Zoom space has become very popular, especially since the pandemic, and a lot of us spend a lot of time on the computer or on these Zoom spaces. So, it really is appreciated when you do stick around and when you are participating and engaged. It really shows the heart of all of you who have joined us tonight. Thank you for all of the new people that we met tonight. Please keep in touch. Look us up on IG, on the website, greenworkersjustice.org. I believe I did that justice. Contact us if you have any questions. We are on IG as well. Lynn, if you can drop the IG Baltimore Green Justice address in there. And we're done for tonight. So thank you again. Save the date. We will be opening up registration early next week for the rest of this conversation. Part 2, or the next part of this, is adverse effects. Okay, save the date, 5/22. The adverse effects and the solutions that we as residents are experiencing, because someone mentioned it. We're not just in going to conference rooms and just talking about things about communities that we don't live in, that we have no idea what's going on. We experience these things, whether it's our birthplace or somewhere that we grew up or where we live now. On some level, we're encountering this ourselves. So thank you again. Lynn, Kim, do you guys have any final words you'd like to say?
No, you
Before we
did
wrap it up?
wonderful, Amber, and I'm very thankful for everyone who participated. Looking forward to following up with Nana Abina and Zayeda and some of the others from the continent, and the folks that are here on this side of side of the world. Looking forward to connecting, but we'll see you all on May 22nd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you
Asante
so much.
sana.
And there was a request for us to close out in prayer. And if you want to lead that prayer, you're more than welcome to do that.
I'll do it. I'd love to do it.
Who's on there? Who
She's
wants to
coming.
lead the prayer?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to first say thanks be to God that all of us came on this line, women and men. And thank you for taking the time to find time to say what is so important for us to do together. And may God be with all of us. If anyone had to travel, may they have safe traveling. And anyway, let's stay together. Let's form a good relationship and join us again on May 22nd. Thank you very much for inviting me also. Thank you.
Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe, ashe. Hey guys, one more thing. I'm sorry. Throughout this conversation, we were going to be hearing from Dion Avery. She's a co-founder of a Montessori school in Baltimore, and she did join us by pre-recorded video that I did not get to play as we as we ran through time. But I did put the link in the chat and ask that you grab it so that you can check out her responses and her contribution to the conversation as well. Okay, that's Dion Avery, Montessori School in Baltimore. I can't remember the name right this minute. All right, guys, have a good night. Usiku mwema, as they say here. Usiku mwema. Good night.
Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.